Hello everyone, welcome to Marketing 459 Professional Selling and Sales Management. Okay. This is Chapter 10. Chapter 10, let's talk about the sales force quotas and expenses. Sales force quotas and expenses. And Life magazine had an article once said that our men gave their talent to the company and their genius to their expense accounts. Yeah? Our men give their talent to the company and their genius to their expense accounts. Okay, so expense account is so important to them, right? They put their whole Sophia. Okay, so yeah, that's how people treat their expense account. And all right, yeah. So why do we want to set up sales quotas? Okay, why? What's the purpose of sales quotas? Okay, sales quotas can be used to do many things. Okay, sales quotas. First, you want to use that to indicate strong and weak spots in your selling structure. Okay? In your selling structure, in your company selling structure, as a sales manager, you may face different product lines, different product groups, or different territories, different type of customers. In your selling structure, you may be your company performance may be strong in one sector, in one area, in one industry, but weak in other area, in other region, in other industry. Okay? Quota, the sales quota can indicate your strong and weak spots, so as to devise a better quota to encourage more sales, more activities in those weak areas, weak spots, so you can improve. Okay. You can use sales quotas to furnish sales force with goals and incentives. Okay? The person knows that they have to sell like a certain amount or a certain number of units. They have a goal to achieve. Okay? And also they could be incentivized if they achieve or meet or achieve or surpass the goal. Okay? Furnish the sales force with goals and incentives. That's the second purpose of sales quota. Okay? You can use sales quotas to control sales force activities. Control the sales force activities. Where they're strong, where you're doing strongly or weakly. You can control your sales activities to put more activities in the weak areas, as we said earlier. Okay. So you can use sales quotas to evaluate sales force productivity and to evaluate their productivity. Okay. You can use sales quotas to improve compensation plan effectiveness. Okay. You can sales quotas, see if they meet or surpass the sales quota to see if your compensation plan is effective or not so effective. Okay. You can use sales quotas to control your selling expenses. Remember, you have your selling activities, your salespeople performing all those selling activities. Then there's accompanied selling expenses, concurrently, right? And those kind of selling expenses could be out of control. You may be spending too much money, too much expense on certain area, certain product line, certain customers, not achieving the corresponding reward or revenue. Then you need to use your sales quotas to control those selling expenses. Okay? And also you can use sales quotas to evaluate sales contest results. We talk about using sales contest as a way to motivate your sales force. Okay? So these are the purposes of sales quotas. Okay? So what are your quotas based upon? What are your quotas based upon? Okay, so there are different types of sales quotas, right? Different types of quotas. Okay? The basis of your sales quotas, could be the sales volume. That's the most often used. Right? That's the most often used one. Yeah, the sales volume. The sales volume could be in dollars, $100,000, $500,000 in dollars, or in units, units of the product sold. Okay, that's all sales volume. Right? You can use sales volume as a quota. See, for this person, for this salesperson, and for this region, for this month, you say you have to sell, your quota is at $200,000. Okay, that's a sales volume as a quota. Okay? Your quota base could be the gross margin or net profit. Gross margin or net profit. If you don't remember what the gross margin is or how gross margin is calculated, now is a good time to go back, right? Go back and look at your accounting book and make sure you understand that, right? Gross margin and or net profit of a company of unit. Okay? Your sales quota can be based on the expenses incurred, right, as your quota basis. Okay? And also, finally, you can do activities. How many telephone calls made? How many sales calls made? How many visits to the customers? How many post-contract customer service activities performed? You can look at how many hours spent in the field, etc. All these activities can be the base of your sales quotas. Okay? And of course, you can use either one, 2 or 3 or more of these 4 characters, as a combination to set your quota. Okay? These are the basis of sales quotas, okay, and types of sales quotas. Okay? And let's talk about expenses. One of the last one of the basis of sales quota is expense, right? Expenses. What kind of expenses will the sales force incur? Okay. For example, first one is office supplies. They're gonna have office. They have office supplies, including all things needed to maintain, to run, to operate the office. Okay. And entertainment is not an expense. Remember, entertainment for themselves, for their customers, their favorite customers, or the key customers, the key accounts, or customers with or potential customers. Okay? Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm drinking some water here. Next one, next expense is gift. Okay? Gifts. Of course, gifts, there's a limit on the amount of money you spend on gift. You cannot give too expensive gift to a person. That could be considered as a bribery. So you don't want to surpass the limit, the legal limit here. Okay? And then lodging, that's a huge expense. There's a huge expense lodging. When salespeople go out of town to spend the night, overnight over in another city, another region, and for maybe several days, even several weeks, the lodging could be a big expense. Okay? Communications, telephones, cell phones, faxes, using company computers to send emails, all forms of communications. That's expense also. Meals, when they're away from home, right? They have to eat out there, outside, and their meal expenses. And transportation, either with a company car, with a personal car, or using public transportation, airplane airfare, train ride, even ferry boat, ships, all you name it, all kind of transportations needed. Okay? These are the factors all influencing sales force expenses. Okay? So how do you make an expense plan sound on solid ground, right? There are some characteristics of a sound expense plan. A sound expense plan. There's some certain characteristics here. Okay. First one is no net gain or loss. No net gain or loss. What do we mean by that? Okay. You should have expense plan, your expense plan set up, established for your sales force, that the salespeople will not gain from them personally. Okay. For example, your expense plan is for them to do the sales work, right, for the company. They should not gain it from it by, say, allowing the families, the relatives to go on the same trip and treat them nicely with nice meal, everything, the expense, travel expenses, so they can personally gain from the expense of company expense. Okay, and also there should be no net loss. In other words, they should not have to use their own money, personal fund, to pay for company expenses. Okay, so they should be compensated for all the expenses, legitimate expenses, legal expenses, and no more than that. That's what we mean by no net gain or loss, to have a sound expense plan. Okay? The second characteristic is that it has to have equitable treatment of everybody, all the salespeople, that we can see that, right? And third one is there should be no curtailment of beneficial activities. No curtailment of beneficial activities. In other words, if there are certain activities that are beneficial to the company sales, to the business, they should not be discouraged because of the restrictions from the expense plan. So your expense plan should not curtail such kind of great beneficial activities by the sales force. Okay, no curtailment of beneficial activities. Next, it needs to be simple and economical. We can all see the point in that, right? It needs to be simple, easily understood, and economical. Don't cost the company too much money. Okay, avoidance of disputes. It needs to be clearly spelled out, clearly specified, so there will be no disputes between the salesperson and their managers. Okay? Avoid all those kind of unnecessary disputes. Okay? Also, company control of expenses and elimination of peddling. Right? There should be a company control of expenses and the elimination of peddling your personal account, peddling your sales expense account. That is, also using the money in the expense account for personal gain. Okay, so you have good control of that. So they are not taking advantage of the company. Okay? So these are the characteristics of a good, solid expense plan. Okay. And also, as to the salesperson's expense, there are several options for a company to do, right, to deal with that. Okay, let's look at several expense options here. Okay, for the expenses, certain companies may use the salespeople pay their own expense. It may sound ridiculous, but certain companies they do that. Certain companies they do that, right? Basically, the salespeople have to pay their own expense, everything, right? Reimbursement, none, no reimbursement, right? Of course, they get paid their commissions, right, salaries, but expense all by themselves, okay? And the advantage of that plan is that it's simple, no cost to the company. It's simple, right? The disadvantage is that the representative, the sales reps, may not spend enough on customers. Since it's money out of their own pocket, they may not want to spend enough on customers. So that's not good. That's a curtailment of their sales activities, right? So certain companies may use that, but not too many. Okay. Some companies may use unlimited payment plan. That is, all legitimate business expenses are paid for by the company, reimbursed by the company. Okay. The advantage of that is it's flexible and fair, allows for territory differences, right? But on the downside, on the other side, on the other hand, it encourages excessive spending. They mean, since unlimited, they just keep spending, lavish spending, wasteful spending. Then that could be a problem. The expense could be out of control. Okay. Yet some companies use a limited payment plan. I think more companies are using that limited payment plan. Okay. A specific amount is allowed. Okay. Like for reimbursement. Like for example, lodging, they covered $80 a day. Well, this number is outdated. Nowadays, you spend more than that. If you decide to stay in a 4-star hotel or 5-star hotel and cost more than $80, you can pay that for yourself, but by yourself. Right? If you spend spend night at a motel, which costs less than $80, hey, you can pocket the difference, right? That give you $80 a day. Food, $45 a day. Yeah, all 3 meals, $45 a day. Same way. Or you drive your own car by transportation. For transportation, you get the 0.26 cent a dollar, 26 cents a mile, depending on the mileage. Okay. So the advantage of a limited payment plan is that it's limited and predictable in the expense amount, but it could be inflexible. And there's a possibility for switching expenses between categories, and the salespeople may resent that. They may not like that. Okay. And also some companies use the flat allowance. That is like, say, for example, $700 per week. Oh, everything included. Just that's all the company will pay you for all your activities, all your expenses, right? The upside of this is a limited and predictable expense to the company, but the downside is inflexible, and also the sales force may not like it. Okay, so the different salesperson expense options for the companies. Okay? Now let's talk about the cars, automobiles. All the expense. Right? America is a country on wheels. Okay? There are factors influencing automobile ownership decisions. You can have company-owned automobiles for use by the salesperson. You can use company leased. The company can lease cars from a car dealer and give that to salesperson to use. Or you can let the salesperson, use their own personal vehicle to do that. Right? When deciding on using company-owned, company leased, or salesperson-owned, there are many things to consider. Okay? Maybe you need some special design for the task jobs to be performed. You may need sometimes you may need a fast Lamborghini, I guess, right? And also to control of ownership, right? And also how many miles will be driven a year, right? And also the salesperson's personal reference may play a role, preference, right? And also administrative issues you have to deal with, maintaining a fleet of cars, okay? And the total investment in automobiles, okay? And operating costs of that, okay? And also depends on the size of your sales force. If having a few people, several dozen people, or hundreds of people, or thousands of people, okay? And then maintenance issues. Maintenance of the cars, so who's going to pay for the maintenance, how frequent to do the maintenance, things like that. So there are many factors influencing your ownership decision of the cars used by the sales force. You can consider company-owned, company-leased, or salesperson-owned personal vehicles. Okay? And for automobiles, they have some companies use the automobile allowance plan. Basically, there's an example here, right? Several examples here, several methods here used, right? One method is flat amount. The first method, flat amount. The company pay the salesperson $400 a month on all the automobile expenses. That's it. Okay. A second method is fixed mileage rate, like 28 cents per mile. Okay. Or they could use a graduate mileage rate, like 25 cents a mile for the first 15,000 miles. Okay. Most people, I think most people in America, we drive about 10 to 15,000 miles a year. Okay. But on the first 15,000 miles you drive, you get to pay 25 cents per mile. On the second 15,000 miles, you get paid only like 15 cents per mile. Okay? That's a graduate mileage rate. Okay? Or you can use a combination of flat and mileage rate. Combination of flat rate and mileage rate together. That is, you pay a flat amount of $200 a month plus a mileage rate. That's like 16 cents per mile. Okay, that's combination flat rate. Okay? These are the options you can consider. Okay? There are also other methods of expense control. To control expense, there are other methods that you can use or you can consider. Okay? Training and enforcement. Yeah, you can use Salesforce training, to let them know the rules, the company policies, and also how the policy is enforced. A lot of good trainings will help with the controlling the expenses. Use credit cards. Right? You give them a company credit cards, using credit cards also to control the expenses. Right? And set expense bank account. You have the expense account. Right? Salespeople can just draw from that account for the expenses. Right? Also, there is change in the nature of entertainment. Entertaining your customers, taking out them to shows, to games, to events. There are some changes in there, right? So you pay attention to them. Some people, some companies use the telemarketing to reduce the expense of sales and selling. Okay? And also by carefully plan your travel, that will also help companies to reduce costs associated with selling. Traveling from the routing of the travel. Okay. Do several things on the same trip. Arrange for different appointments. Sales calls with certain travel patterns or travel scheduling to avoid big expenses. So these are all different methods you can use to control your selling expenses. Okay? I think that's all I have for this chapter. Okay, I'll see you next. Bye.